So we go.
Now, I would like to introduce the one, the only, me.
Alrighty, it's Dre Tattoo Squid Podcast here with Russ and the Infectious Grooves, which is a good name, but I love that band.
It's funny, the person who came up with the name for our podcast, there's three of us on the show, myself, Kyle, and my best friend in the whole wide world, Michelle. And Michelle named the show, and she has never, at the time, had never heard of that band. And still, as to my knowledge, has never even heard their music. And so it's like people always ask us that, oh, are you guys connected to the band? I'm like, no, the person that named us never even heard of them. So yeah.
I mean, that is like awesome. Because I'm like, when I saw the name and I'm like, holy shit. Fucking I forgot the last name of the bass player that was in
Rob Taggio. Yeah, he went on. He's in Metallica now.
Yeah. So it goes from that one, and then you got every guys that used to be in Suicidal Tendencies.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that is fucking crazy.
I was a skater kid growing up, so I knew about all those bands. Yeah.
You know, that Bad Brains and
yep. So when she said it, we were just spitballing names a couple of years ago. And when she said it, I said, well, I don't know. Don't you think everybody will think of Infectious Grooves? And she was like, what's that? I was like, okay.
What's that? I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's like a band that was, you know.
It was a huge, So she spends a lot of our show wondering what's going on, though. So it's all good.
Yeah. It's always good to get an outside ear, you know, to hear it and all that. And then, you know, and I've always wanted to try to get like a co-host myself, you know, just to release the monotony of the whole thing.
Sure.
You know, because I mean, I'm doing good as it is. You know, I mean, like I'm doing the whole promoting. I'm, you know, like you've seen, we call again all the guests and
everybody
and then try and do the art stuff and you know, thank God we called, you know, when you go and do the merchandise, you know, all I had to do was get all the stuff and then let other people fucking do it. So
you
know,
there's a lot to it. We do the show we do weekly, and it tends to be about an hour and 15 minutes because it's very conversational between the three of us. But the YouTube channel that we have is pretty much me working out of my own vinyl collection and sharing stuff, and those videos are rarely over 10 minutes because I can't bring myself to talk for more than 10 minutes at a time on one particular thing. So generally for that, those are quick burst type things, whereas the show is more conversational. So we have, and like I say, we spend a lot of time stopping the show to explain things to Michelle. So the one thing is the three of us have wildly different tastes. And I'm the oldest of the three of us. And so a lot of times she will ask an honest question like, like, oh, were the Beatles only around for that short period of time? Like, really? Or what, like honest questions. It's not like I'm making it out sound like she's an idiot. She's not an idiot by any means. She just doesn't have the width of musical history knowledge that I do. And so she'll ask a lot of honest questions, and her taste is definitely her taste. We do album reviews on the show. Every other episode is an album review, and we reviewed Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. And I thought that we were just going to spend an hour talking about how one of it's the greatest records of all time. And she gave it a 5 out of 10 and went on about how it didn't impress her all that much. And so
it doesn't hit everybody.
Yeah. So I learned that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff like, well, I mean, I listen to everything. So, okay, technically I don't listen to everything. I don't listen to country. I don't, but if you're talking about like heavy metal with a mixture of country, then yeah, okay, I listen to that.
Sure.
But, like typical, if I just listen to country, I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that, or, whatever. But, between rock, classic rock, opera, not opera. Mm-hmm. Oh, shit. What did I fucking say that? Rap.
Sure.
And then, and then you got all the other stuff. Like, and my wife, when I was married, my wife was listening to like Dave Matthews and David Gray and and other different people, which I can't remember right now. And I was listening, and I actually went to my first like Dave Matthews concert, like in Jersey, and I was floored. I was like, wow. And like,
Yeah.
and you know, my Spotify, which that's what everybody's talking about now about Spotify, but which I don't really know anything about. They were like, you know, that's what I have on mine, where I have David Gray or sometimes David Allen Coe, you know, which, you know, he always gets in with Damage Plan with the, you know, Dimebag and Vinnie Paul.
Oh yeah.
You know, so when they had the band Rebel again, Rebel meets Rebel.
Oh yeah.
And actually, which is funny because there's a guy that Break On Through podcast. They do, you know, he does everything. He does a podcast for his dad, but he talks to people about music and what they love. And surprisingly, he didn't give you guys a call, you know, because, you know, you guys are like, you know, seriously into like music wise.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, and then
I feel like everybody makes the rounds to everybody eventually.
Yeah, no, I mean, more likely he will, you know, because he does too. He does, well, I mean, he does one and his wife doesn't know him, but he's in that one as well. So he does like the music part, and she does like, it's called For the Booze, which let me write this down for honorable mentions. You know, For the Booze, and which that is like a you know, like a supernatural, like anybody that's gonna like, they talk to like ghost hunters and
yeah.
You know, what was the one? Shit, I forgot. Oh, Break On Through. So now, where are you guys? You said you're based in
Detroit, Michigan.
Right,
Yeah.
where fucking CM Punk. No, CM Punk's different. No,
I think CM Punk Chicago.
Yeah, I'm losing it.
If you're doing wrestlers, I know we claim Kevin Nash for sure.
Yeah.
He and I actually live just west of downtown Detroit. And I think Kevin Nash is from a town called Westland, which is like 5 minutes from my front door.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah, and I know there's a ton of rhinos from here. There's a bunch of different wrestlers that are from Michigan in general and Detroit.
Oh yeah, Rhino too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still fucking going, man. He's like killing it as it is. Mine is Undertaker, but he's not around over here. He's from Texas as it is, but you know,
right,
I got the Undertaker symbol.
Right on, yeah.
But you know, for us in Long Island is our you know, Mick Foley. So
oh yeah, there you go. That's a great claim to fame.
You know, which you know, we gotta do a hush hush because Mick Foley is Santa Claus on certain days, you know.
Right.
But we go, hold on, Undertaker, Mick Foley. Yeah, but now he's like, you know, Mick Foley's all over the place now. Yeah, you know, he has like he's always doing books as it is. And yeah, but I mean, when you're doing your music and everything else, do you like pick like a subject between all of you, or just like, you know, I'm just going to play this?
So we've been at it for about 2 years now, and the first year we covered what I feel are a whole lot of basic stuff. The first concerts we ever went to, you know, the first albums we ever bought, you know, just what I feel is like basic stuff like that. And one thing that we said from the beginning is there's enough negativity out in the world, so everything we do is always best of or most underrated type subjects, because we could probably get 1 million more clicks if we were to do most overrated whatever, right? Because if we do that, then we're always insulting something that someone loves. So instead of riling a bunch of people up that way, we've gone about it where we are constantly talking about music we think more people should listen to, or artists people maybe haven't heard of, or even like take a huge artist, like you say, like the Beatles, obviously huge. Michelle and I have had a debate our whole life over, I prefer the White Album and she prefers Rubber Soul. So we'll do an episode on that, you know. So we're both saying these things are great, and here's why I think one is better than the other, you know, and just a positive way to look at it, instead of doing an episode going, Rubber Soul is crap and here's why, you know. So we did that for a long time. And then about, I don't know, coming up on a year, we had a lot of listeners being like, you know, man, I really would love to hear you guys review this album I love or that album that I love. So it evolved into literally now every other episode of the show is an album review. And again, we don't sit around and go like we've had albums that we've given low ratings, but we always try and find something positive to say about it instead of just, oh, this is garbage and we have come down from the mountain to tell all of you that this is garbage.
Do not listen to this, it's garbage.
Yeah, and then there's other things too that happen, like if things happen in the news where a perfect example, we started this show about 3 weeks before all of the lockdowns happened.
Yeah.
And I've been to, let me put it this way, I literally stopped counting concerts around 1,000. And it's been probably 5 years since I stopped counting how many concerts I've been to. So one of the big things of the show was going to be, hey, and then all of us are going to go see so-and-so, and then we'll report back and we'll do an episode. Well, 3 weeks into the show, we couldn't have concerts anymore. So,
yeah.
So we'll do things like, if an artist is going to do an entire huge tour and then that gets postponed, we'll talk about the ins and outs of it and the hows and the whys. And luckily we've all had chances to go to concerts, at least some, since things are starting to move a little bit again. But then even 2 weeks ago, right before we went to record the show, we had a whole topic we were going to talk about, and one of my co-hosts, Kyle, was going, he went off about a rapper that he loves put out this his new single, and it was just like straight rock, like it was not even a little bit of a hint of rap. And Kyle was like, oh, I hate when people do that. It's he's just doing that to get money, like trying a different genre to see if it'll stick. And I was like, well, let's do a whole episode on that, because some artists have done it very successfully and others haven't. And that's what literally the episode that just came out this week, that's our topic. Because
who was the rapper? Actually,
it's a guy I'm not familiar with named Yellow Wolf. And and that's one thing Kyle brings to the show. He brings so much diversity. Like we do a segment every single week called our Jammy Jams, where we literally just talk about what we've been listening to, whether it's new music or not. And again, that's just to say, here's what we were listening to, here's why I was listening to it, and to get more people to listen to more music. And every single week, I'm not saying this to be funny, Kyle will be like, I was listening to this guy, and this guy. And I'm like, I've never heard of any of those people. Tell me about them, So, and it works because the audience gets informed on them, or there might be a listener who's like, how do you not know who Yellow Wolf is? Much like if Michelle asked me a question, and I might say, how do you not know that about Pink Floyd? Somebody in the audience is probably like, boy, I'm glad she asked that, It's
like, so, I didn't know that either. What the hell?
Yeah. And stuff like that just comes out of nowhere. Like, just whatever is going on in music short of politics. And I know sometimes that's a fine line, but we just don't, there's too much noise going out there with politics. So we don't ever address anything politics or religion wise. And the biggest thing is, no matter what we're going to cover, we try very hard to find a positive way to cover it. Even if it's something huge and negative, like all of the lockdowns, during that time, we tried to find other topics that we could talk about instead of just every episode going, oh, I wish we were at concerts, Well,
they do have, there was certain bands that had, like Lamb of God, they did like the YouTube thing where they did like a single, and they did it through different video takes.
We covered a lot of that stuff and had fun with it. Like Post Malone is a rapper, and he did a live thing from his house that was a tribute to Nirvana. You talk about out of left field, that was exciting for us to watch. And plus many artists were still really doing big releases during the lockdown. So a lot of albums got pushed back, but there were artists that were putting big releases out. So we were talking about that and everything. Just again, not to sound, no pun intended, not to sound like a broken record, but it's about finding positive ways to put a spin on everything. For years, I call myself a recovering music snob. For years, I was that guy that was like, whatever you listen to isn't as good as what I listen to.
I know.
I can't believe you haven't heard this album. And I finally got tired of my own crap and just decided instead, hey, let's talk about as many positive things as we can instead,
but tell me about we call how Cinderella came around. Who picked that out?
As far as the band Cinderella, that was me. I'm a
Oh, okay.
huge Cinderella fan, and again, that comes mostly from my age. Like, I don't think I could force Kyle to listen to Bashar or to Cinderella because he's about 10 years younger than me, so he's probably not all that into it. But I have a ridiculous amount of records of all genres that I keep, and we have people over every Friday and have for almost 9 years now, way before the podcast started, to spin records, and we just listen to wherever the mood takes us. And I recently just started posting some of the records we're spinning on Twitter, which is how you saw that, and that's how we ended up getting connected. And that same night though, we listened to an Elvis Presley live album, and we listened to the latest Billie Eilish record, and it's so we just go wherever the mood takes us. But Cinderella is just such an underrated,
I know,
fantastic band. And
Peace Festival.
Don't even get me started, man. A huge fan. And Tom Kiefer, I've actually had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times, and he's just the nicest dude. Like, both times that I met him, he was a super nice dude.
Back in the day, like in the 80s and all that, and maybe not.
Oh yeah. I always tell people that I got to meet Roger Waters, and they always say, don't meet your heroes, Roger Waters is my favorite songwriter of all time, and he is notorious for his ego and not getting along with people. And I met him about, it's 2022 now, I want to say about 8 years ago. And I'm so grateful that I met what I call old kind Roger. Like, he's like he's just a nicer guy now than he used to be. And I'm glad I met him now, because if I met him in 1987, I would be like, boy, I used to be a Pink Floyd fan, so I met Roger, and he was an a-hole, Yeah,
because I used to, like, when I mentioned this to you on we call it messaging and all that, we call it Cinderella. I used to go, and yes, folks, I had tapes. There were tapes, and the younger people are gonna be like, what the hell are tapes? You'll find out. They're probably gonna come back like records do. Right. And I had this, like, with the Walkman and everything else, and I put it in there and I'm listening to it. So, like, very first one was not my very first rock album. My first rock album was like UFO.
Oh yeah. I just bought a UFO record 2 days ago. I
can't remember what the album was, because I was like so young, and I just started picking up because you have siblings that pick out different shit. They don't really listen to the same stuff. When it starts growing, and when you get older, then they'll start listening to, like, me and my brother, we go, like, he was more into, like, rap when he was younger. So he was doing that phase, he was doing rap. I was doing rock. But then to the fact that on my birthday, I went to the mall with my cousin and his girlfriend, now wife. And they're like, listen, we're going to go, whatever music you want to get, we'll buy it for you. I'm like, all right. So I got the Motley Crue Girls 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 album.
Yes, sir.
Fucking love that shit. And then I bought Slayer. Now, I did not know what I was getting into when I bought Slayer, because, well, they bought Slayer. When I got Slayer, and I put that tape in that tape player, and then I'm like listening to Motley Crue, like, on the way home, and I'm like, fucking yeah, and this is when you can be able to sit in the back of a pickup truck and not have to worry about safety fucking laws and shit. And just listen to it, like, screaming and blah blah blah. And then once I get home, I'm like, oh, let me try this one, and then listen to Slayer. I turn it on, and it's like, and I'm like, holy shit, I think the tape is fucking going fast. Because I did not know how fast fucking Slayer was. And then that's how me and my brother got, kind of like, he was, I listened to Slayer too, but he's like a major fan of Slayer. Sure. I was like doing Slipknot, Lamb of God, like all different kinds of stuff. And
I hear what you mean. When I was a kid, obviously this will way date me, but my brother and I went to a Kmart together, and I bought at the time the latest Culture Club record, which I'm still a huge Culture Club fan. But that day I bought Culture Club, and my brother bought Shout at the Devil. They were both nice. They were literally like new albums at the time, right? Yeah. So we come home, and I'm all bopping around listening to my Culture Club record, having the time of my life. And then I hear Shout at the Devil coming from my brother's room, and I'm like, I'm going to need to borrow that tape that you bought. So I hear exactly that. And then my older brothers got me into Rush and all that. And I always give my one brother a hard time because I remember not long after that, I brought home a Run DMC album. And it had nothing to do with race or anything. My brother was just the rock guy, and he wanted nothing to do with rap. And he said, "You will never play that in my CD player, you know, and that's not real music." And every time my brother now goes to my record bins to pull like the Beastie Boys or Eminem or something, every time I'm always like, "Oh, it looks like somebody finally wants to hear some rap." Yeah, how about
you just
that?
went on to this side now.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, mine was like, what the hell was it? We were, like you say, diversity and everything else. So we always go into different stuff. So ours was mostly Cypress Hill, so we're listening to Cypress Hill, Beastie Boys, like you said, Run DMC. Mine was also DOS Effects, and like numerous other ones. And actually one guy was like, and I hate to admit this, there is a song from Gerardo.
Oh yeah, Rico Suave.
Yeah, that's the only fucking song I have. I didn't have the other one, but I'm like, I like that song because it was catchy.
Hell yeah.
So I put that on my playlist too. So that comes on. My friends are like, "The fuck is this?" I'm like,
dude, I have a couple of arcade machines down here, and I had a guy coming to do some work on one of them, and I just threw on a Spotify playlist that I made of like 70s, 80s, 90s stuff, and a song by Lisa and Cult Jam came on. Okay, this guy pulls his head out of the back of this arcade cabinet. He goes, "It has been 30 years since I've heard this song. Would you turn that up?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'll turn that up." So,
dude, I'm going in your house, man, because we could. You got like the arcade games.
Hell yeah, music, man. Hell yeah. And I promise this isn't a shameless plug. Check out the YouTube channel. When you see the other end of this room with the records, you'll be like, "What?"
Oh no, I'm gonna check it out, man. I'm gonna check it out. I don't drink, but it looks like I do because I got the drinking glass, glass. But
yeah, we've been having people over literally to this house for about 9 years now, and I encourage people to bring their own records or pull from my collection. And I mean, you think a side of an album is 20 minutes, an actual LP. If somebody brings over something and I truly don't like it, it's going to be over in 20 minutes, and they like it, so we throw it on. But I will tell you this, I've probably been turned on to conservative effort 100 artists in the last 8 years or so, of people just being like, "Hey man, can you throw this record on?" And then 2 songs in, I'm like, "Well, I have to buy this now." So and I've done the same for other people, like for Cinderella, for example. I have a couple of friends of mine that are probably 10-ish years younger than me. They put on Cinderella. Oh my God, who is this? Cinderella, what? I had no idea. I'm like, yeah, it turns out they're just a blues rock band. They just had a persona that puts them in one file, but when you listen to it, it's just blues rock. And I had one guy was like, "How are these guys not bigger than Aerosmith? They do what Aerosmith does, but better." And I was like, "Tell everyone you know." That's the only way it'll help.
Well, the only thing now, they can't really do anything with the guitarist because he passed away, Jeff LeBlanc. And we had to get into, since we're talking about music, and this person I have followed. Well, I mean, not followed, but I mean, he's like my idol, even though it's an actor, but he plays a DJ. Howard Hessman. He passed away today. At I don't know what age. I just seen it that he passed away. I didn't see the age. It just threw me for a loop.
Early 80s, I think.
Yeah, and I did an episode where, and I, Wolfman Jack, right? So music, Wolfman Jack. So I used to love listening to Wolfman Jack. Now, people, if you're listening to this and you're like wondering who the fuck is Wolfman Jack, think of it like a werewolf, half werewolf, with highlights, somewhat, and a really dark, deep voice going, "Hey, that's Wolfman Jack." Like he's been smoking a carton of cigarettes for about 10 years. And
sounds like he had a carton a day habit.
Yeah, or like that. He just smoked it all away, and that was it. And then, you got Wolfman Jack going on there, and then wait, I gotta write that down. So that would be a good fucking picture, I tell you, because Wolfman Jack and I got Howard Hessman on here. Yeah, I do. And then because I was listening to him, but then I seen Howard Hessman as Dr. Johnny Fever.
Oh yeah.
You know, on WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yes, sir.
And that's how my life turned around. Somewhat. I mean, it turned around like that, but I never really followed through on going to do you know, radio.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody's talking about DJ this. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna go and spin records like, you know, ones and twos and all that. This is like you're doing like Z100, or you're doing fucking Sirius radio kind of stuff, and then you're just talking your shit like we're doing now.
Yeah.
And then you just play a fucking, you know, a CD or whatever they do on the thing, you know?
Dude, let me tell you what, my guy was Casey Kasem.
Yeah.
Number one with a bullet, man. And you know, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you want to know how I ended up the way I am, all you have to do, and it's funny because now there's a channel on iHeartRadio. Like if you download the iHeartRadio app, there's a whole channel that plays nothing but Casey Kasem countdowns unedited, like just the same ones that used to play when I was a kid. And you put that on for somebody, and this cat wasn't just going, here's the new Prince. You know, you'd hear the song start, and then he'd go, you know, here's a song that Prince wrote with his bass player and his, you know, guitar player, and they wrote it a year ago, and it wasn't ready yet, and he just got it ready now, and so it's on his new album. You know, like, and that's how, I mean, you get a music education just listening to the countdown. You know, and now it's like radio is so corporate now with all these corporate playlists and all this stuff, and they'll even play the songs faster to work in more ads. Like it's way more about the selling of the ads than it is the selling of the music.
Yeah, definitely.
And my son will be 16 in 2 weeks, and he loves Casey Kasem. Like he's probably the only 16-year-old on earth listening to that channel constantly. You know,
the kids be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. Well, to both Casey Kasem and who he's playing. You know, all these kids are probably like, "Who the hell is Cyndi Lauper?" You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, girls have fun. Come on now. You know?
Yeah. So, but that was for me. I always tell people that I'm like, if you ever want to know how I ended up who I am, listen to one countdown from Casey Kasem, and you'll be like, oh, that's why every time a song comes on, Russ has to tell us the whole story of how it was recorded.
Yeah.
You know?
True.
Because he got it from Casey.
Yeah, because I mean, we could now we're talking about music, we got to talk about MTV.
Oh yeah.
You know, but now MTV doesn't really have the music videos. I mean, they may have it, I don't know, but you know, and I said this numerous times on different episodes of, you know, I'm like, listen, if they bring it back, that's fine, but why would you have you know, music awards for videos that you don't even fucking show?
Right, I agree.
You know, it's all like drama stuff that you have on there from different TV shows.
Right.
I mean, you know,
there was a time where the VMAs were like an event in my house.
I've been there. I've been to one.
Yeah.
And it was also, I'm thinking the one with Rosie O'Donnell. I think, no, not Rosie O'Donnell. I'm sorry. Roseanne Barr.
Oh, right on.
When she you know, did that one, and me and my friend went, and then it was just fucking awesome. It was just like, you see all the bands playing, and I forgot who the bands were, but I know when we were walking out of Radio City Music Hall, I bumped into like two of the members of Anthrax,
nice,
like on the street, and all that. It was awesome. Scott Ian and Frank Bello, I think.
Nice.
And then it was just like, but I didn't like, you know, say, oh, hey, how you doing? It's just like, you know, starstruck.
By way of a long story, I accidentally had dinner with Frankie Bello about 5 years ago. A friend of mine was in a band with him, and my friend texted me and said, hey, do you want to go to dinner before the show? I said, yeah. I showed up, and he's standing there with Frank Bello. I was like, I guess I'm going to eat dinner with the guys from Anthrax now. Yeah. I was, as far as what you did is way cooler, actually going to Radio City for a VMA, but I was kind of involved in a VMA because I saw U2 in concert in '92 at the Silverdome here in Detroit. And they did a song via satellite on the VMAs that night. So like I was in the crowd for that with, you know, 90,000 other people. But but so that's like my connection to the VMAs. But going to an actual show would have been amazing.
Oh, I mean, it's like a blur. Like I said, it was like 90 something or whatever, or or 2000, I think. I don't know. It's like somewhere around there. But then it was just like such a fucking blur. I don't even know. Like that was the only ones I really know who was in there.
Right.
And then years after that, I was working in for a company, and my foreman, he was like, hey, you want to go and see Down? And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, who the fuck is that? I didn't really know who Down was at first.
Mhm.
And then he explained, it's like, oh, it's the two guys from Pantera, you know, Phil Anselmo and Rex Brown.
Rex Brown,
And,
yeah.
you know, Kirk Weinstein, we call it from Crowbar. And then Pepper Keen from Corrosion of Conformity, and Jimmy Bauer, you know, which is
Yep.
does other miscellaneous stuff around. He doesn't stay in one band.
Right. Yep. Yep.
And I was like, all right. So I figured he was blowing smoke up her ass, you know. So we got on a train, went to Hammerstein Ballroom, and we call it, went down there, and he's like, oh, we're gonna get the VIP seating. I'm like, okay, whatever, you know. And then we got in there and we sat like on the stage, which is right across from the stage.
Right. Yep.
And they had the, you know, the drinks over here, you know, and and the funny shit was like, you know, it was like, oh, you know, going on and it's in your ear, and all of a sudden I went to go and get a drink, and I'm like, my money's almost fucking gone already. I only brought like fucking $60, you know, and I forgot New York is expensive. And
Yeah.
then I get in there and it's like, hey, what's your name? I'm like, my name is Loud. You know, I have to speak loud, you know, and then they're like, we understand. And then all of a sudden I thought that was it.
Yeah.
And then next thing I know, it's like, oh no, we're going backstage to the dressing room. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, cool. You know, and then I'm thinking free beer. I'm like, all right, cool. So get in there. And I don't know, you see all the misconceptions of being like backstage.
Oh, it's totally different than what people think.
Yeah, what they think. It's like, oh, you're just gonna go there and hang out there. And I'm like, no. It is mayhem. You know, it's fucking mayhem. I'm walking in there, it's like, you know, you get your basic stuff. They get the spread, like the food over here, they got the liquor over here, everybody's hanging around smoking, you know, you just walking in through London and shit, you know. And you're like, holy fuck. And I'm a smoker at that time too, and I'm like, fuck. But
I've only been to one concert in New York City my entire life, and it was at the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Yeah,
it was the only show I've ever been to New York for ever, and it was Guns N' Roses at the Hammerstein Ballroom in 2006.
Oh shit, yeah.
The only time.
This shit was just fucking crazy because they came around with a
bet.
pipe. They came around with not a pipe, but like, you know, the hello, how are you kind of pipe, you know. So my foreman is known to dabble in with a little substance that comes from, you know, the other country.
Sure.
You know, the little yeah. So you know, then he's like, oh, don't smoke that. You don't know where that came from. I'm like, this coming from a guy that does coke on the fucking table. You know, I'm like, wait, I'm like, how am I gonna take your word for it? You know, so I smoked it, and I'm like, all right, cool, I was fine. You know, we drank beers. You know, Rex Brown called me Andre the Giant. You know, and I'm like,
nice.
It's cool. And then I'm like, all right, that's it. No, we went on the fucking tour bus. I was like, shit. I can die and go into heaven right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
and
it.
It's cool when you get to hang around guys and they're cool like that. Like I've had more than a few. I've had a couple experiences getting backstage and being like, you are quite an asshole, you know. But I'm a lot of the experiences I've had have been like, wow, this dude is every bit as cool as I wanted him to be, or you know, like, and it's great when that happens, you know.
Kirk Weinstein and the only ones I really interacted with was Kirk Weinstein and Rex Brown. I haven't really talked to Jimmy Bauer because she was like running around as is. Phil is like half in the bag somewhere in the corner. And Pepper Keen, I think, was just drinking somewhere else or whatever. So I haven't really met or talked to him, but I talked to Kurt Weinstein. I actually had Kurt Weinstein's number after that. So I had it on my cell phone when cell phones were starting to get big. And not to make a long story short, which is kind of late now, but one New Year's Eve, I went to my brother-in-law's bar. He was bartending, so I went down there. We were all like drinking and shit, and sit there, and all of a sudden my phone starts ringing, and I'm like, I look at it, says Kurt Weinstein. I'm like, hey, hello. You know, he goes, yeah, you called me. I'm like, And he goes, "Who's this?" I'm like, "It's Dre. Big Joe's a friend." And he goes, "Oh, hey, Happy New Year. Did you call me?" And I'm like, "No, motherfucker, you called me." And all of a sudden he's just like, "Okay, well, I'll talk to you later. I'm in Japan. Bye."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, whatever."
Yeah.
So, but he's trying to listen to this going like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
I don't remember that shit from like way back when, but it's twice I think I met him. Jones Beach in Long Island and Hammerstein Ballroom in the city, and then that was about it. So
Yeah. Hammerstein, I only went there the one time. Like I said, it's the only show I've ever seen in New York City, but the venue seemed cool as hell to me. Like, and the show itself was great. And I know that venue is known for a lot more than just rock shows. I mean, the history of wrestling there and everything. But the show that I went to was dynamite. It was absolutely fantastic show from GNR, and I was just blown away. It was a great show that night. And then it was a real whirlwind. I've been to New York City several times, mostly for work trips and whatnot. But that particular trip was just whirlwind, like in and out to see that show. But it was quite an awesome experience. And I didn't even, at the time, I didn't even realize that the history of the venue or anything, and afterwards I kind of saw like how much had gone on there. I really do want to get back to New York City to see a show at Madison Square Garden at some point, just because it's a historic music event. Well, the first record I ever bought in my entire life was Elvis live at Madison Square Garden. So, I'd like to go back to see a show specifically there for those historic
I
purposes.
don't even think I ever been to Madison Square Garden, actually.
I've been inside Madison Square Garden, but for a work event, not for like, it wasn't a concert. It was for like a work event. And I was in there. I was like, I'm in here for the wrong reasons.
I mean, the ones I've been to, I think was more like Nassau Coliseum kind of thing, seeing stuff like with wrestling.
Right.
Shows I haven't really been. I haven't seen that much. Like I said, I'm going to date myself on this one because back when in Jones Beach, not my very first, well, maybe my very first concert, it was like Damn Yankees, Poison, and Firehouse.
Hell yeah. I'd go to that show today.
Yeah. And that was just like, I was like, wow. And then my sister and my friend's girlfriend, they were just fucking high because all the fucking weed was going around.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But they weren't smoking it, but it's just like it was open area and you smell that and you're be like, hey.
Yeah, dude, I hear you. I've dabbled here and there, but I've never had really serious use of any pharmaceuticals. And you go to some concerts and it's like, well, I guess I'm doing this now. Like it's just so much all around you that, like, I mean, I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan. So almost every time I've seen any member of Pink Floyd or the guys together or anything, it's like, as soon as the music starts, you're like, well, I guess we're all getting high. Like, like this is just going to happen.
Which is funny. There's a venue. I forget what the name of the venue is, but there was a venue that me and my friends went to, and it was just crazy. It was just like, all young people hanging out. I'm like, all right, cool. And then the band, they had Slaughter there, and I'm like, okay, I know who Slaughter is, but then it's like, oh, open up for them is Trash Can Baby. I'm like, okay, I think I heard that name before. And then I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay, cool. And then it's like a sitting establishment. It's basically not a lot of fucking people. It was just like, it was cool though. It was like a nice little hangout, but you had to go out like a certain amount. But
right, yeah.
That's not like if I was going to go to the Ritz or something. Yeah,
that's one thing that is nice about where I live. I'm about like from my front door to downtown Detroit is about 15 minutes, and
nice.
Down there is every venue size from 200 seater to 100,000 seater. So, and Detroit is obviously has a major history as a music city. So everybody, whether they just put out their first record and they're touring in a van or they're on their, retirement tour and they can fill the 100,000 seater, everybody comes through here. So we see nowadays with the prices of tickets and the fact that I've seen everybody I've wanted to see, 100 times. Nowadays we'll go downtown and catch a show for, $10 and two bands we've never heard of, be impressed by somebody's record. And then that ends up being the only time. Well, let me put it this way. About 10, probably a little over 10 years ago. We went over to a 1,000-seater to see someone who was not big at the time. Our tickets cost $18.50.
Yeah.
We were very impressed by her and bought her second record at the time. And I told everybody that I would listen to, oh man, when this girl comes back, you guys, she was something else. And now she charges like $500 a seat, and it's Adele. So, so that type of stuff is like the band Fun is a recent band that became huge. And we saw them at St. Andrews Hall, which seats like 800 people for $12. And again, I was telling everybody that would listen, oh my God, we saw this band. They were so great, and then the next time they came around, the tickets are $100 before service fees and all that. So, so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm good with the show I saw, I'm not paying all that, paying a bunch. So I love that about Detroit, that if I so choose, I can go catch whoever, Elton John, Billy Joel, whatever, like the big acts that come through, or I can go downtown and catch whoever that no one's even heard of. 15-minute drive.
I think the one band I really want to see that I really love is Devil Driver. And people, if you haven't seen or even heard of Devil Driver, you gotta get the earlier albums and listen to it. It's really good. The videos are unmistakably like the most awesome fucking videos I've ever seen, especially one. And I'll give this prop like every time I talk about it because I love this video. It's but I'm trying to remember the name of the song that for whom not for whom the bell tolls, but all that wanders, or for who all that wanders, or something like that. And you look at the video, and it's a very I'm trying to remember the name of the director that did like Dusk Till Dawn and
Robert Rodriguez.
No, there was the other one that did like Death Proof and
Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino and all that. So it was more like a Quentin Tarantino-esque kind of video.
Gotcha. Sure.
So you have your tie-dye-ish kind of like blinking lights, but then in the middle you see like the go-go dancers dancing, but they're all in black.
Right. Yeah.
But then you'll see like the band playing and they're in black too, but then you'll see their face here and there. And just the the computer antics of the whole thing, where there's like one lyric, he goes, "Oh, I got eyes of a dead man," and then his eyes turn dead.
Right.
Like in a split second, and went back to human like eyes.
Right.
And then they use like an X-ray vision kind of thing, and you see the whole body skeletal of them while they're playing.
Right.
So like the drummer, he's going, like really fast, and all you see is a skeleton going.
Yeah, that's rad.
I was like, shit. I'm like, I'll when I find out the name, and then I'll message you, and then you just like,
right on, for sure.
And then it's just like I'll watch that the whole time, and my girlfriend's like, again, really, again? I'm like, awesome, look at it.
It's good to see when people do good visuals to go with their music now, because a lot of it has become so derivative. And I try hard not to be grandpa about it, be like, well, back in my day we had Pink Floyd and they did real visuals, I try and be open to new things, so I'm always happy to check out something that's good on the art side of things.
Pink Floyd's visuals are a little visuals,
right? Yeah.
But then also, like you were saying about like you have a co-host or whatever, or somebody that's like really young, that is like 10 years difference.
Right.
Same thing with me. I was working in Pennsylvania. I'm driving my friend home. His car was in the shop. Blah blah blah. And we're driving, and I put my fucking MP3 player I think I had on going on. I play my music. And I think it was Poison that was playing, like the very old fucking Poison or something. Sure. And all of a sudden after, the guy just looked at me, he goes, "Who's this?" And I'm like, "You don't fucking know?"
Right. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he goes, "Dude, the last time I heard something like this, I was like 8 years old." And I'm like, "Shit, really?"
Well, it's still out there. you can still listen to it,
Yeah.
You
No, I know, but he was more like how I am right now when I'm listening to like really thrash and heavy kind of like stuff and all that. I think that's all he was doing.
Right.
But and even then, back then, it wasn't like, like, oh, the internet, you can go and be able to find out this and
Sure.
this and this and this. So, and then
Yeah,
also like,
if somebody didn't have the CD on them, then there wasn't any way to go listen to it. Sure, I know
yeah,
what you mean.
exactly. It's like MP3. I'm like, oh, I just put everything into that because CDs are like nobody doesn't really have a CD fucking player.
Right. Yep.
You
I
know?
hear you.
So then I was like, I put that situation compared to the situation that I had with my dad. Now, my dad was like, Elvis, like you were saying, he was listening to Elvis. He'll listen to like anything, Johnny Mathis, what a country, whatever kind of shit going on. When I was younger, and I'm sitting there, and he's listening to like the radio stations, or whatever, and I'm like, do we have to listen to this? And he goes, oh, it's my favorite music and all that. So it didn't dawn on me until that fucking day. And I'm like, holy shit, I am my dad.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not dad, but I think we're all like that. Once your music, you listen to it like forever, all the fucking time. And it gets to a point where it's old age fucking music.
Right.
I mean, hell, they have Slayer, I think was on WBAB, or like, like a very like,
sure.
like modern rock station.
One of my co-hosts was just texting me the other day and was just offended that the classic rock station here in Detroit, like the station that would play Boston and Zeppelin and all that, she says, I had to check the dial on the radio 3 times. They played Rage Against the Machine on 94.7, which is our classic rock station. And I was like, that's because Rage Against the Machine is classic rock now. Yeah. Like the reason why they're playing that is because that's classic rock now. Like, I can't help you with that. Like that's a fact of life. Like time moved on. And now it's as many years from when their first record came out as when we were kids and they were playing Led Zeppelin on the classic rock station. Like that's classic rock now, Yeah.
It's like to the point where you listen to like mine, I always try to listen to some new shit. Like even like if it's like heavy metal. I think there was like a band called Ecto something. I forgot what the last one was. I'm not good with names, as you can tell. But as it is, it's like Ecto something, and it was like really mellow kind of metal. Right. But it like you can understand the lyrics a little bit, not like all the other ones that you're like, what the fuck is it?
Yep.
What the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, no, but, I hear what you mean. But and I will say that's one thing that over the last 9 years or so, us having people over to spin records and me encouraging people to bring stuff that they like has done a lot for me to keep up on newer artists. Like I've probably heard of 100 artists in the last 9 years that I would not have come into on my own without someone else bringing it and saying, oh, hey, you should hear this, and there's been plenty of people that I've said like, oh my God, how old is this record? And they say, oh no, this guy just came out, and I'm okay, good. Cause I had no idea that he existed, and that's been very good for me to be able to keep up with anything new at all, or I wouldn't have an intake for it. Cause you just listen to what's comfortable to you, know?
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's like, so what would be the new kind of like albums you want to get now? Or that you don't have in your collection?
That's funny you ask. I just did a video on our YouTube channel like 2 weeks ago called like what's still on my wish list because of just stuff that I have never got around to owning. And to be honest, the vinyl resurgence in the last 5 years or so has been a completely double-edged sword for me. Because on the one hand, everything is getting pressed on vinyl now, whereas it was a dead format for many years, and there were many albums that came out that I said, "Oh man, I wish that would be on vinyl," and it wasn't. Now every album that everybody
is on vinyl. Yeah.
However, that has also turned into the collector's market going insane, and everything goes up in price super quick. So
including record players. Yeah.
Record players for sure, but the actual medium, like I in that video I was talking about, and you mentioned them, Firehouse.
Yeah.
I love that first Firehouse record. You
Yeah.
can't find a copy of that on vinyl for under $100.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I
is
know.
insane, you know. And if I would have looked around for somebody would have given me 10 copies of that 5 years ago.
Oh yeah.
You know, but now that vinyl is a big thing, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's rare, the price just goes up immediately. And I get capitalism, and I'm not being like, get off my lawn about prices, you know, but the stuff that's on my wish list still is on my wish list still because the prices are insane for anything. And so I'm like, well, I'm not overpaying for that.
When
you know,
you said, get off my lawn, it just like dawned on me, Uncle Kid Joe, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, get off my lawn. I'm like, you know.
And I will say too, I have a ton of records that I bought for very regular retail face value over the past 10 years that have skyrocketed in price. Like I never intend to sell any of my records, but yeah, I could for a ridiculous amount of money if I wanted to. And a lot of albums that I bought at the time, I just wanted for whatever reason, and have since become, the album itself has become way more popular, or it's out of print currently on vinyl, or just vinyl in general is so popular that people can't find it. So all of that stuff just keeps escalating in price.
Yeah, it's true. My question is, when you do your YouTube channel, right, and then you play the music on your YouTube channel, you don't do it.
Can't do it.
Yeah, because copyrights.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's what I was wondering, because
yep, can't do it. There's all sorts of, and trust me when I tell you, I've looked into this like you wouldn't believe. There are, if you ask 10 people, you're going to get 10 different answers, and people are going to say, oh no, you can play 5 seconds. You can play 10 seconds. No, you cannot. You cannot play anything. And if you see people on YouTube or on their podcasts playing commercial music, one of two things. One, they just haven't been caught yet.
Yeah.
Or 2, they'll be completely demonetized, like in any way, shape, or form. Like if you try, for example, I would love to do videos on different quality pressings, right? Like this version of this album goes for this much, but here's what the two sound like, here's what the lesser expensive one sounds like. Can't even do an educational video like that. It'll instantly get pulled. And a lot of artists are way worse than other ones. And even within bands, it's crazy. So Fleetwood Mac, for example, Stevie Nicks understands technology, and she understands that in order for her music to get turned on to a whole new generation, that we're going to have to share it in the way that the generation shares music now. Right.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to, I could play any song that Stevie Nicks wrote with Fleetwood Mac on and never get approached by it. Yeah. Lindsey Buckingham, on the other hand, went to the Don Henley school of I don't understand the young people. Yeah. And he will, if you put 5 seconds of anything, Lindsey, so same about Rumors. If you take the album Rumors, Stevie wrote Dreams and Lindsey wrote Never Going Back Again. Yeah. If I wanted to, I could play Dreams in a video and it would be fine. And as soon as I put 5 seconds of Never Going Back Again in there, the video will get taken down immediately. So it all goes, within the Eagles. Joe Walsh is the guy who understands how technology works now, and Don Henley would rather none of us be able to share music, which is ridiculous. Yeah. Don Henley is actively trying to get guitar teaching YouTube videos to not be able to use Eagles material. And it's like, you understand that if this guy has 1,000 subscribers and he's teaching kids how to play, you understand that that's good for us, you and your art and everybody, right? And Don's like, nope, I wrote it and I should get paid for it, and that's it. And it's like, dude,
it's all about the money, basically.
You do not understand, man. And some bands are way more litigious than others. And trust me, I've been all the way up and down this road.
Because I tried it myself. I did, because I just started out. When I started out doing the podcast, like, and I was explaining this to certain people, when they came on for like guests and all that, and it might be like a broken record now, but no pun intended. But it's like, when I started, I didn't know anything about audio. you know,
Mhm.
so like this and everything else, I just found out about how to be able to do Zoom and everything else.
Right.
But then I was like, I always want to be heard, not seen,
Yeah.
because of the whole radio thing. And then all of a sudden now I'm like, I was doing video first.
Right.
So I was doing YouTube. I'm like, oh, I'll just do this. And then even though I didn't like doing it, but I did it.
Right.
And then I would set the video camera like in the garage. I had my garage. Now, when you say you got your stuff downstairs in the basement, we got like an apartment, but we have a separate garage, but the
Right.
garage doesn't have any power as it is. You know, come on, folks, power, please. But you know, I couldn't be able to hook anything up to do something like this in my own garage with all
Right.
the stuff that you can see.
Yeah.
But I tried, you know, and there was nobody to help me out, like co-host wise, you know, just to turn on the camera and just sit there and like turn it off. You know, I'll just come up, turn it on, and I'm like, oh fuck it, I'll grab my speaker and I'll play some music and then do like an intro for me sitting down, and I'll just
Right.
shut it off.
Yep.
And sure shit, boom, you know, got fucking copyright fucking slammed. You know,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and then
Dude,
there was
I
like,
tell you, listen, how ridiculous it is. I have a friend of mine who is in a very high profile band. They're still very current, very high profile band. He emailed me written permission to use a song that he wrote as the theme song for our podcast. He said, oh yeah. No, he goes, I said, you know, is there any way I could use this song? And he said, well, you need two things if you're going to ever try and use copyrighted music in your production. You have to have the written permission of the songwriter,
yeah,
and you have to have the written permission of the person who holds the rights to the song at the time.
yeah,
And I said, oh, okay, so that's probably a whole mess. He said, no, I'm both. He goes, I wrote it and I hold the rights. So I'll write you an email and give you written permission to use that song. I said, okay. We put up our first 3 episodes, and the first 3 episodes got taken down immediately. All 3 of them, I had to go and fight up a storm with all the podcast hosts, you know, Spotify and everywhere where it got struck, and go, here's an email from this person showing me permission. They say, oh, okay. Put the episodes back up, published our next 3 episodes. They go down. I got to go through the whole rigmarole again. So instead, I just ended up taking all of that off. And my brother is an extremely talented musician. He wrote me some music, and we just use that because it's never been, you know, copyrighted or on anything.
yeah,
It's just our bumper music. And truth be told, my whole point wasn't even like, oh, and we'll be the show that has that song as our theme song. Like, it's just, you know, I went through the proper channels and I can text this guy right now and be like, hey, can I use your song? And he will text back 5 minutes later, yes. You know,
yeah,
but then it's so wrapped up in red tape
yeah.
that you can't even do that.
Yeah,
So
it has to go from here to here to here to here. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a matter of what, in a way, it's what it's always been. The record industry does not understand its customer at all, never has. And it's worse now than it ever has been. Like, I'm out here doing a weekly show. I do a weekly podcast and I do 2 YouTube videos a week to be a salesperson for their product. I'm an unpaid advocate for their product, and they're trying to stop me from selling their product for them.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Crazy.
You know, and so it comes back to the question, well, then what the hell do you care? What are you doing it for then? Well, it's for the artists. You know, the artists have always been the ones getting screwed over. So what I do is to advocate on behalf of the artists. Nothing whatsoever do I do for Sony Music or BMG or, you know, Island Records. What I do is for the people that have improved my life with the art that they've made for me to enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, and I would like more people to hear it. You know, would I love to play 5 seconds of a song and go, oh, here's what I'm talking about? Sure. But, you know, we work around as much as we can, you know.
I'm trying to see if I can, you know, because I know a person, I know somebody that's like in production wise, but he's always been asked like many times. So now I'm like, all right, I'm not going to go and ask. But then I got a friend of mine that is in a band and he's a DJ kind of person. So he could be able to like try to put something. But again, he's busy with his own stuff. So I haven't really touched base with him yet, but I really want to get my own kind of, you know, like theme song kind of thing, you know. Nothing too, you know, nothing too crazy, you know, just like a low dirge kind of thing, like you're in the sea.
Yep.
And you know, and have like the, you know, the screen with something. I don't know. But and then I'll go in there and just say well Tattoo Squid podcast, but then they can just go do something
right. Yeah.
crazy with it. But hopefully they're gonna be like, oh, okay, that's gonna be like $500. I'm trying to get a house.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? There's a surprising amount of really good public domain music out there now. Like again, when you go look at the YouTube channel, just the intro and outro music that we use for the YouTube channel, that's all public domain stuff. It's just like it's rock music that we found that's public domain and we use it, and it's kind of our signature thing now, like the intro and outro of those. And then my brother made the music that we use on the show. So
because like the stuff when I do because like whenever I do like the episodes, like with the guests and all that, and like I said, we could write stuff down and everything else, and I would go and use like I'll go to Soundboard, it's called,
right?
Soundboard.com and all that, and I'll just type in whatever, like say like for instance like the last one I did was like the Facts of Life fucking theme song,
right?
And then that was on there, so I'm like, all right, I'll just put this on the thing, and it shouldn't be doing anything wrong, because it's on the soundboard.com.
Sure.
So it should be used maybe the way it is, and different things of aspects of like wrestling or who's talking and whatnot. But
we've had the pleasure of doing some very big interviews of people that when we started the show, if you were like, hey, you're going to get to interview this guy one day, I would be like, you made that up. That's not real, and I can't even play their music while I'm talking to them on my own show, which is
who's the one that you really want to have on your show that you wouldn't have talked to above anybody else?
Like a dream guest?
Yeah.
That I haven't. Oh, I'm far and away Roger Waters. I mean, he's my favorite songwriter of all time. I did meet him in person once, but I mean, getting him on the show would be. I did have a guy that played in Pink Floyd on the show, which was amazing for me. Little old me down here with the same background I'm talking to you about right now, and then he shows up on the camera at his apartment in London. And I'm like, when I first got into Pink Floyd, it's like I saw that guy on the first Pink Floyd VHS concert that I ever bought, and I'm like, now I'm talking to him, for the show.
Yeah.
But Roger Waters, hands down, I would just, love to sit and pick his brain about some of my favorite lyrics of his,
Yeah. I mean, mine would be, like I said, Devil Driver, but the lead singer's name is Des Fafara. I'm hoping I'm gotten that right. But I would love to go and talk to him, because he's kind of like because I have a friend, my friend Key, Key, and he was into music and everything else, and I known him for like 30 somewhat years now, but now he's a comedian as well, but he dabbles with this music still. But when I look at Des, I'm also looking at my friend Key, and they're like the same type of person,
right?
It's like they're laid back, they're fun going, but then when you get them all, they kind of ticked off, it's like, whoa,
right?
The animalistic side of it.
Oh yeah.
And it's like that. So it's like if I can be able to talk to Des, to me it would be like I'm talking to my friend Kate.
Right.
Because it'd be something I'd be more comfortable. But even though now I'm getting more comfortable talking with people, different aspects of podcasts. Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
And it's not like holy shit, am I gonna do this right? I'm like, no, everybody's telling me I talk too much. I might as well just fucking put it to use.
It's funny. That's what, for years, anytime I talk to anybody about anything to do with music, people would just say, oh man, you should have a music podcast. So you hear that enough and you're like, okay. So finally we started just over 2 years ago, and it's it's been going real well. Like I say, and I will tell you this, as far as wanting to get people on your show, I would throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, man. You wouldn't believe, we've had people. I'm a huge Black Crowes fan, and I almost jokingly sent a tweet to their drummer once on Twitter. Hey, you want to come on a podcast? And he was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Sure. Oh, okay. It's one of my favorite drummers of all time, and I got to interview him, and he, on top of that, he ran his mouth a little bit about the Robinson brothers while he was on the show, like unprompted by me. Blabbermouth.net picked it up and ran an article on, so I'm like, oh, now I'm like, not only did I get to talk to the drummer of one of my favorite bands of all time, but now Blabbermouth.net, a website that I've been reading for metal news for 25 years, is running a story about my podcast, and it came from me sitting on the couch being like, oh, tweeted Steve Gorman, so he'll come on the show. And he just was like, yep, so you never know, like the people that I've got to talk to have been insane just from throwing stuff to the wall and see what sticks.
No, that's what I did. I did that for like, major celebrity wise, like Elvira, Johnny Depp, and I just did that. But then I was watching, are you into like movies as well? Like
ish. Let me say this. I'm the guy where, how I said I used to be about music where I would go, you've never heard that album. How dare you? Okay. I'm the guy that 90% of the movies you're going to mention, you'll go, I can't believe you're kidding me, right?
Yeah.
You've never seen that movie? Like, that's how I am about movies. I just,
all right. Super true.
Never seen it. I swear I'm not kidding. And my co-host, she makes jokes from it all the time. And I never laugh. And she's always like, oh, that's right. You've never seen Super Troopers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, basically we could, like I said, there's a movie Super Troopers. There's a group called the Broken Lizard.
Right.
So
I do know that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 5 guys. They're called Broken Lizard.
Right.
They do the things from like, they got movies called Beer Fest, Super Troopers, like numerous ones.
Now Beer Fest I've seen. Yeah. Which is every time I'm in anywhere that has a large drinking vessel event, I'm like, das boot, like, and then everybody's like, oh, look, he made a movie reference,
Yeah, and it's like there's another one called Slammin' Salmons, and
what's funny about that? I've never seen that, but you know how YouTube is constantly in your recommendations. YouTube is always recommending like that you watch movies.
Yeah,
that is always in my YouTube recommendations for some reason, and I'm always like, I'm not going to watch this movie. Please stop telling me to watch this movie.
Yeah. But I mentioned, because I was watching, like I said, I was watching Super Troopers, and I was watching that, and then I was like, you know what, fuck it, let me go and see what happens. And then I'm like, hey, I'm just watching Super Troopers. I'm like, hey, Broken Lizard, you want to go and talk about it, like, do some shenanigans? And it was like the one key thing that they talked about was shenanigans.
Right.
Like, for instance, because I know you probably won't know about it, but there's a thing where somebody, one of the guys did something, and it's like so cruel and heartless and all that, but he thinks it's funny,
right?
But then the whole police or the highway patrol gets involved, and they get like the shaft because of that one guy. So now here's the captain. He goes, and he's like the overweight looking like Irishman. He goes, what are you guys doing? What's going on over here? Are you getting in this fight? He goes, what am I paying you for? Blah blah blah. And he goes, what happened? He goes, oh no, it was like Farva, he plays all these like games, they're cruel and intentional, it's like they're so mean. He's like, we do fun and happiness. And he goes, yeah, ours is like very good shenanigans. And he goes, shenanigans. He goes, next time somebody says shenanigans, I'm gonna pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans. And then all of a sudden the guy's like, Farva, what's that restaurant that you like that has all the decorations and all that? He goes, shenanigans, and he pulls out his gun. Oh, here, go ahead, do it.
That's great.
So I typed that in there with the shenanigans, and within like a day, I got a like from Broken Lizard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Broken Lizard, like my fucking comment. That's the first step. Let's see if they come up.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So I'm gonna actually do that again. I'm gonna put it on there. I'm like, so Broken Lizard, have you thought about?
Yeah, you never know, man. There's hundreds of thousands of podcasts. I'm sure people get peppered with stuff all the time. Yeah. But you never know what kind of mood they're going to be in. Like the guy I interviewed, Steve Gorman, he might be the biggest jerk in the world, but I caught him at the right time. He happened to look at that tweet and said, oh, sure, I'll come on, and we hooked it up, and it was great. And you never know, and but on the flip side of that coin, I've tagged a ton of people in tweets that I know will never ever see it, or reply or whatever, but you never know.
There's like certain celebrities, like you figured they're always like every celebrity that you have seen and heard of and all that, you figured they'd be on Twitter because everybody's talking about Twitter when they were on the celebrity status. Oh, I tweeted this, I tweeted that, blah, 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 blah. But then all of a sudden you're trying to go and tag them and they're not on fucking Twitter. Like Kate Beckinsale. That's another one I want to try to get on the show. I'm like, hey, why are you dating a young guy? Like that kind of shit, or Elvira and Johnny Depp and anybody else or whatever, so but hopefully.
Yeah, it's a fun adventure podcasting. It can't be, for me, it's what you make of it, And
I mean, I have fun no matter what. I mean, I'm not really in it for the money as it is, because I mean, honestly, we always say this as a joke, and it's like, podcasting, we're not going to see any money,
Yeah.
But it'd be nice when we do get money, and I'm like, hey, that'd be cool, whatever, that's good.
I see that all the time from new shows. They're always like, oh, I put out 3 episodes, how do I start making money? It's like, when you find out, you let me know. We're 100 plus episodes of the audio podcast and just over 100 videos on YouTube, and we have yet to see a dime from anybody. So when you find out where the money is, you let the rest of us know.
That's I mean, the thing I was doing, I was like, I'm doing like what everybody else was talking about. Like, oh, you get the video. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing the videos. I got the videos, I got the audio, like you said, like over 100, 120, 125, audio, and 30 or something of whatever from here to there. And I'm like, oh, and then a couple of guys, like from Hops Geek, they told me about I'm like, how can I go and promote some, like, shirts or whatever without me doing anything about it? It's like, oh, go to this one, and then they push me in the right direction. And I mean, you're gonna get something, buy me a coffee and whatnot.
Sure. And to me, it depends on what you're in it for too. Like, we started the show specifically to combat all the negativity in the world, and to share underrated artists and put a positive spin on things. And I can't tell you the number of times that we've had listeners say, I never would have listened to that album, or I gave that album another shot, or, oh my God, I have a new favorite artist, or whatever. And that matters to me. I would switch that with the money for, easily, because that's what we started out to do. And we're doing that. And we've had many listeners comment on the fact that, like, I love the fact that I know that at no point are you going to insult something I love, or, you know what I mean? Like, they know that we're going to always do something positive. But to me, the big payback for me has been so many people saying, oh, I'd never even heard of that artist before, or I never got around to listening to that album, but you guys talked about it so much that, I finally did. That to me is that's what we got in it for. And, not that all of us podcasters are going to hear feedback all the time, but when we do get that feedback, that means the world to me.
Yeah. So, all right, now we kind of like ventured in a whole lot of, like, music wise, and some movie wise. What about, like, you said you're, like, into wrestling. I know you haven't seen, like, a lot of wrestling because what have you been through with wrestling? Like, who's your favorite?
Well, I grew up on it, man. I went to WrestleMania 3 when it was here at the Silverdome, so I was there when Hogan body slammed Andre, and all the way up pretty much through the Attitude Era. So like 99, 2000, whenever you want to say the Attitude Era ended. So D-Generation X and Austin and Rock and all of that, and I just kind of fell off with it. Like, my son is kind of starting to get into it a little bit now, so I've been watching it more with him again and whatnot. But back from, I don't know, say 85 to 2000, I went to countless events of Monday Night Raws, and I've been to Royal Rumble and the Survivor Series, and 2 WrestleMania. I went to WrestleMania 3 and 23, both here in Detroit, and I'm trying to think, what's the other, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, all that. I've been to all that stuff. When I was a kid, the coolest guy on earth for me was Ultimate Warrior. I just thought he was just the greatest, And of course, later in life, the character of Steve Austin was pretty much directed right at me. I was a young, mid-20s guy who, hated my boss and everything. And we were drinking a ton at that time. So here comes this wrestler who hates his boss and is drinking, so it was directly, squarely pointed at me, And so I just had a riot watching all that stuff, but going to it in person was always fun
Oh yeah, definitely.
to see. And and even in the last 10 years or 15 years that I haven't been watching it, it's not like with music, I hate when people say things like, "Oh, I used to like that band, but I grew out of it." Like, I don't feel that. I don't feel like wrestling is below me or anything now. It's just not, the product hasn't been interesting enough for me to watch religiously. Like, at one point, there was a time where as soon as Raw went off the air on Monday night, I was counting down the minutes to 8 p.m. the next Monday,
yeah.
because I was heavily invested in all the storylines and everything going on. And
Oh
it
yeah,
just got to a
definitely.
point. It just got to a point where almost like with any TV show, if they bring on characters you don't like or whatever, you know what I mean? You're just like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm not keeping up with this now,
I mean, yeah, I used to like know like every character and all that. I mean, now, I mean, I still do. I'll watch WWE. Or whenever I get a chance, I always see it on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
And because now we got like the apps and all that, and
Yeah.
don't really. I finally got to see Royal Rumble, on Peacock.
Right.
Shout out to Peacock. Hey, you want to?
Yeah. Hey, you never know. You
Yeah,
never
come
know.
on, sponsor there, Peacock. And then and I I just look at we call it. I see my little the soundboard thing I have in, and there's Peacock right there. So
Nice.
it just and then it went away. What the fuck? Anyway, so yeah, but it's I was watching that and I'm like, wait a minute, Royal Rumble. I'm like, how are they gonna do this shit? They've been fucking firing shit.
Yeah, no shit.
Left and right. Everybody's like doing different shit and going to a rival thing, which me and my friend have a hypothesis of what that might be. It's like back in the day where ECW was around, WCW, and we call it, they like Vince McMahon was saying, he goes, well, I want to tell you a story. He goes, in the background, we were helping ECW out with money wise.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then but then there's people that's wrestling there, like RVD or, this person and this person, can make a big difference, make big money and all that, when getting directed in the right way. So that's what they were doing. And then now you figure with that retrospect that they go into doing like AEWs on one side, almost like the
Right.
WCW Monday Night Raw
Right.
kind of thing.
Yep.
And then you see AEW. Who's to say that Vince McMahon is like, doing this with everybody else and budget cuts and then give him the heave ho, but then all of a sudden they go to AEW or Impact and he has his hands dipped into that.
Sure. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because
why would he go in and get rid of like the whole revenue, almost the whole revenue of the the wrestlers? And which is funny because I read about this and I thought it was just fucking like idiotic the way they did it. So Jeff Hardy, one of my favorite guys, especially when he has the alter ego Willow, fucking awesome character, awesome, athletic. He has his problems, yeah. Sure. But he goes and they get him out of there. They release him. All of a sudden now they're like, oh, we want you to come back, do the Royal Rumble. He goes, listen, we'll give you a spot at the Hall of Fame, if you come back. And it's like, fuck that shit. I'm like,
yeah,
really? Then if you're going to do that, then you might as well have Matt Hardy go in there. Why have it for one person, not the other?
Right. Yeah.
It's like a slap.
Well, it's like any industry, man. There's all sorts of politics that goes into all of that,
And then you look at it because like AEW doesn't look like they had that politics going on. I mean,
but they're also a very, very young company, man. WWF in some form has been around for 50 years. AEW is a very young company. They'll get there. We'll turn around twice.
They have like good fucking a great fucking locker room set up now.
Right, for sure. I agree.
It's like anybody that was on WWE is jumped over there and
right.
Or Impact or gone to Power 55 or whatever it's called, I think, where what the fuck's the guy's name? He's married to Mickey James. I forgot. But anyway,
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, we call it. There's a thing. But then you see, you know, anyway, I'm just like blown. I'm tooting my own horn for something, and I can't really figure out what it is. But can you tell everybody where they can find you? You know, and actually talk about your podcast, what it's about, basically.
Sure. Yeah. So the podcast itself is, you know, and I went into it a little bit, but basically every other week we do an album review. And again, we try and do it from as positive of a perspective as we can. And then on the off weeks, it's always just, sometimes it's artist interviews. A lot of times it's just discussion topics, you know, some of our favorite women in music or our favorite artists who went solo or just, you know, things like that, or underrated artists, or like we just this week we talked about artists who change genres and when it's a good thing and when it doesn't work out well. And then completely independent of that is the YouTube channel, which is Infectious Groove Vinyl, which is I do 2 videos a week for that. One video every week is me sharing either a very rare record that I own or one that's special to me for one reason or another. And then on Saturdays, the video is generally a discussion topic, like 5 really underrated albums or 5 great albums that were the last album someone put out, or, you know, something along those lines. Because a lot of times when you talk about bands, people almost always say, oh, well, I like the early stuff. Or, you know, a lot of folks listen to those first couple of records and they don't listen to the later stuff. So again, same premise, though. We're always trying to, you know, boost something up instead of, you know, and say you will never see a video on our channel of the 5 most overrated albums of all time or anything like that. You know, so you have all of those different things. So you get a podcast episode every week, and you get 2 YouTube videos every week. And the easiest way for anybody to find out anything about us is either on YouTube, just search Infectious Groove Vinyl and subscribe to the channel that way. Or you can go to infectiousgroovepodcast.com and everything you need is there. There's links to the videos, links to where to find the show. We have a blog that literally for every show we do talks about the blog list stuff, like all the artists and songs that we mentioned in every episode, because we had listeners for a long time saying that, like, oh, I listened to the show and you guys were talking about this and I wanted to listen to it and I didn't write it down, you know. So we just do that for people so they can go right to the website and get it, you know. So infectiousgroovepodcast.com, go there. Or if you're into vinyl records, if you go to YouTube and just search Infectious Groove Vinyl and subscribe to the channel, you get we got 100 or so videos on there now, and 2 new videos coming every week for the foreseeable future. So
cool. Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to go and get like fucking vinyls now. I mean, I got like about 3, maybe 4. I'm not sure, because I got, you know, like I said, I think I have the Cinderella one, actually. Yeah, I think I have the Cinderella one, Overkill, like the Horoscope album. And there is another one I can't remember, but I'll message you later. You know, we call it, you know, when I find it, or go through it.
Right on. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go, because like you said, where albums can range like even to like the highest amount, which could be 100, 150, whatever, or something like that. And I've noticed, but this is going back maybe a year, 2 years, even before COVID fucking hit. You know, and I seen the albums were like, and new ones. I mean, like new bands that now putting vinyls out there too.
Oh yeah,
like $30 or 40 or whatever. But for that thing, and I got a record player that I just, you know, I bought like maybe a couple of years ago. I haven't used it in a while, but hey, it is what it is. So
right on.
You know, try it on there. But Russ, thanks a lot for being on the show, and you know, and cultivating some music standards.
Right on.
You know?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
You know, and then and also the wrestling standards as well, you know. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So then and you know, hopefully you know, I would love to go on your show. We could, and you know, even though I don't really have a vast knowledge of like different ones, but like the songs and the bands or whatever, I would love to throw towards you guys.
Right on. Yeah, that is one thing. I'm terrible at scheduling people for our show, but it's a I don't want to call it a New Year's resolution, but it's definitely something I want to get better at. So
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty good again the stuff and all that because my girlfriend always helps me out, so she always gets me like a pad or something to write down stuff like I always do now. And also, like a scheduling book, which I honestly and I have to say this because I haven't really used a scheduling book that much because now I have the calendar, so I put it in the calendar.
Sure.
And like I did with yours, I just send it over to you so that way you'll
Right on.
remember.
Yep.
And but like I said, it's awesome. And I'm glad I had off for a couple of days so that way I can get this in there. So
Yeah. Right on.
and
Well, I appreciate you having me on, brother. Thanks.
yeah, man, no problem. And but like I said, folks, also I forgot about myself here. We call it that if you want to follow Tattoo Squid, it's easy. Go to the link tree, linktr.ee/Tattoo Squid podcast. Tattoo Squid is TA2SQUID. And there's links for everything that's on there, certain podcast areas to the shop, which is tattoo squid pod.threadless.com. And then you got buy me a coffee, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, fucking Twitch, which that one I don't understand because I know somebody on, I think it's Friday night party, I think it is, that the podcast, and he does Twitch and he does like music on there, so I don't know how that goes, with Twitch wise. You could play music on there and not get penalized. You would do like on YouTube or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask him that, because he was on a couple of weeks ago, and his episode is going to be coming out. And with this, when I have the episode, I will tag you. When
tag us, and we'll always make sure to retweet.
Yeah. No problem,
Yep.
man. That's all good. We could, because like I said, I always like tag the person when I put it out there, whether it's the audio, the video, and the episode art. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and that one I'm gonna try to, some good stuff that I can work with. Mostly it's gonna be all like especially the Wolfman Jack, Casey Kasem.
Yeah.
And
sure.
And get like a whole, I don't know, I'll figure something out.
Right on.
But and skateboards too, a skating ring or something.
Yes, sir.
So, but yeah, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit after this. I'm gonna shut this down, and then yeah. So folks, take it easy, have a good night. It is Monday. Everybody's favorite fucking one day in the beginning of the week that starts off the hell. Alrighty. And follow Russ and Infectious Grooves Pod, Infectious Grooves, the YouTube, and like, subscribe on both, and and I forgot what the other stuff is for the audio one. It's been so long and I forgot about it. But take it easy, and we'll talk to you again. And next week I'll have another episode coming out, so get that checked out. I sound like a doctor. Get that checked out.
Right.
All right, folks, take it easy.